no neighborhoods and take people out. Don't do it!
In the aftermath of an unimaginable tragedy, the search for justice and answers begins.
Peyton, you took this from me. You took the last of my line.
During this emotional and heart-wrenching pursuit, parents of victims come face to face with the killers of their kids and families in the courtroom, and sometimes the families let loose, attacking the criminals.
Well, I'm gonna have to get something.
Witness the raw emotions from tears to anger.
And burn you and take your ashes and throw them in the garbage dump. I hope your maker sends you directly to hell to burn for the rest of your eternity.
As we bring to you 5 school shooters that were attacked by parents in the courtroom. Peyton Gendon.
You gonna come to our city and decide you don't like black people. Man, you don't know a damn thing about black people. We're human. We like our kids to go to good schools. We love our kids. We never go in no neighborhoods and take people out. Don't do it!
That was Peyton Gendron being attacked in the courtroom. He was no school shooter, but he was no different from one as he was a mass shooter. He was simply an 18-year-old boy driven by hate towards the black community. For that, he targeted a supermarket frequently patronized by black people and decided to wreak havoc on them. On May 14, 2022, Peyton arrived at the Tops Friendly supermarket around 2:30 p.m. heavily armed, wearing tactical gear. He was determined to do as much harm as possible and even go viral for it as he wore a camera that live-streamed his actions. Immediately, he got outside the store. He opened fire on several people and proceeded to shoot more inside, including an armed security guard who returned fire. Unfortunately, the guard could not keep up the fight as he was already fatally shot and succumbed to his injuries. After the guard was down, Peyton proceeded to shoot more people until police arrived at the scene. Confronted by the police, Peyton took off some of his tactical gear and surrendered. In total, he shot 13 people, 11 of whom were blacks. In the end, 10 people were dead, and Peyton was arrested for murder. Among the victims, who range in age from 20 to 86, were people grocery shopping, a heroic former police officer who tried to stop the gunman, a long-term substitute teacher, and a taxi driver who took pride in helping people. In court, the victims' families were given the chance to give their impact statements, starting with Kimberly Salter, the widow of Aaron Salter Jr., the retired Buffalo police officer and armed guard at the Tops store, who was killed when he confronted Peyton. Kimberly Salter told the court why she wore red and black for the sentencing, when she said red was for the blood her husband shed for his family and for his community and black people generally. She read passages from the Bible, emphasizing that Peyton would reap all that he has sown in abundance. Simone Crawley, the granddaughter of 86-year-old Ruth Whitfield, the oldest victim killed in the rampage, told Peyton, "You clearly did not value your own life, which allowed you to devalue the lives of others." Followed by Wayne Jones, the only child of murder victim Celestine Chaney, who told Peyton, "You took from us a loving mother, grandmother, sister, aunt, cousin, and friend. Because of your senseless act, we will never have another birthday or get together, another celebration." Jones, wearing a cross containing a photo of his mother, told Peyton that because of his hate, which he learned from the internet, he should remember some of the things that he has said to him in the courtroom. Dion Elliott, the brother of Andre McNeil, who was killed in the attack, also told Peyton his brother was picking up a cake for his son's 3rd birthday when he was gunned down. He mentioned that the kid had been calling for his father, unknown to him, that he was dead.
Peyton, you took this from me. You took the last of my line. My mother died 3 days before 9/11. My baby brother died in 2017. My father died in 2017. I'm all that's left besides my baby sister.
Survivors also gave their statements, including Christopher Braden, a white Tops worker whom Peyton shot in the leg during the massacre and underwent 4 surgeries. However, earlier in the hearing, an explosive moment occurred while Barbara Massey, whose sister, 72-year-old Catherine Massey, was killed in the attack, was giving an emotional victim impact statement. She said, "I want to personally choke you and leave my fingers on your neck." But as she was speaking, a relative standing next to her lost it and lunged toward Peyton, who was seated at the defense table.
We never go in no neighborhoods and take people out. Don't do it.
Guards quickly restrained the man as they hustled Peyton from the courtroom. The judge temporarily halted the hearing and called for order in the court. After the court resumed and other family members spoke, Peyton offered a brief apology, saying he was very sorry for all the pain he caused for stealing the lives of innocent people. He said, "I did a terrible thing that day. I shot people because they were black." Eventually, Peyton received 11 life sentences with no possibility of parole plus 90 years. Nicholas Cruz.
And burn you and take your ashes and throw them in the garbage dump. I hope your maker sends you directly to hell to burn for the rest of your eternity.
Those words were targeted at Nicholas Cruz, the 19-year-old who turned a day associated with love to a day of anguish for the people of Parkland, Florida. It was on February 14, 2018, around 2:19 p.m., when Nicholas was dropped off by an Uber driver in front of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. According to a police report, Nicholas was carrying a rifle case and a backpack, which concealed an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle and multiple magazines. He was quickly spotted and recognized by a campus monitor who radioed a colleague that he was walking purposefully towards a building in the school. However, since the school did not specify who could order a lockdown, and staff had been trained not to order a lockdown unless they saw a gun or heard shots being fired, Nicholas entered the building, which is a 3-story structure containing 30 classrooms, typically occupied by about 900 students and 30 teachers. Upon entering the building, Nicholas took his time to assemble his weapon at the base of a stairwell adjacent to the first-floor classrooms. And as he did, he was interrupted by a student named Christopher McKenna, whom Nicholas told to get out of the school, warning him something bad was about to happen. It was McKenna who notified staff members of the unfolding threat as he fled the building. But before any action was taken, Nicholas had entered the first-floor hallway, where he observed 3 students, Martin Anguiano, Gina Montalto, and Luke Hoyer, firing shots that ended up taking their lives. He proceeded to shoot 15-year-old Ashley Baez, who was only wounded once in her upper leg, and then fired through the windows of 4 closed classroom doors, killing 6 more students and wounding 13 others. Due to gunshot reverberation within the hallways, the fire alarm within the building activated, causing confusion because there had been a fire drill earlier in the day. Nicholas stopped shooting, possibly due to a weapon malfunction, and dropped his rifle on the 3rd floor of the building, leaving the scene by blending in with fleeing students. He then walked to a fast food restaurant, stopping at a mall to get a soda on the way, and lingered before leaving on foot. The same afternoon of the crime, police stopped Nicholas 2 miles from the school and arrested him. In total, Nicholas shot and killed 17 people, 14 of whom were students, with 3 being faculty members. In the courtroom, the victims gave a piece of their minds to Nicholas, starting with Ilan Al-Hadef, whose daughter was killed. He said, soon she'd go on to be a professional soccer player. She'd get her law degree and maybe become one of the most successful business negotiation lawyers the world would see. She was supposed to get married, and I was going to have my father-daughter dance. She would have had a beautiful family, 4 kids, live in a gorgeous house, a beach house on the side. These are words from a father who had obviously discussed the future with his daughter, a statement so emotional anyone would reach for their tissue box. But Nicholas had no visible reaction to the victim impact statements, though one of the defense attorneys sitting next to him was seen wiping away tears, though he murdered a lot of teenagers on a single day.
No one will speak of this killer. He will be forgotten. We will, however, always remember, honor, and live for Alyssa, Scott, Martine, and our beautiful Nicholas. May their memories be a blessing.
Tom Hoyer, Luke's father, also said, We were a family unit of 5, always trying to fit into a world set up for even numbers. 2, 4, 6-seat tables in a restaurant. 2, 4, 6-ticket packages to events. Things like that. But the Hoyers are no longer a family of 5, and never again will the world feel right now that we're a family of 4. He expressed how he felt something missing in him after Luke's death, stating he would never get over the feeling. In the words of Gina Hoyer, Luke's mother, her 15-year-old son's room remains the same. His glasses and charger are still on the nightstand, and his clothes go untouched. Jean mentioned she becomes physically ill when she moves anything in the room. One of the most devastated parents was Annika Dworet, whose son Nicholas Dworet, captain of the high school's swim team, had just received a scholarship to the University of Indianapolis at the time he was killed. Annika said Nicholas wanted to study finance and move to Boston with his girlfriend. She further said in her statement, Nick had big goals, bigger than most of us dare to dream of. Next to his bed, he'd taped a note which read, "I want to become a Swedish Olympian and go to Tokyo 2020 to compete for my country. I will give all I have in my body and my mind to achieve the goals I have set." But after his death, Annika and the whole of the family will never be able to see Nick hit his goal of going to the Olympics. Jaime's mother, Jennifer Guttenberg, was not left out as she told the court watching her daughter's friends and classmates grow up and achieve things Jaime never will is excruciatingly difficult. She mentioned how family get-togethers and holidays will no longer be the same, with one less seat at the table and no Jaime to keep everyone upbeat and laughing. Jamie's father also gave his statement in the courtroom saying,
"So what I need to let you all know, all of our families."
4 years after the incident have been no less painful for Linda Beigel Schulman, who told the court it had been 1,630 days since she spoke to her son Scott Beigel, a geography teacher killed as he ushered students to safety in his classroom. She said, "I will never get over it. I will never get past it. My life will never, ever be the same." But before the end of her statement, she had a message directly for Nicholas.
A prison where you will spend the rest of your miserable life having to look over your shoulder, worried about every single minute of your day, of your life, and scared out of your mind, fearful for someone to take you out.
Patricia Olivia also mentioned of her 17-year-old that was killed. "It's been 4 years and 4 months since he was taken from us, his friends and his family. We miss him more than words can say and love him dearly. Our lives have been shattered and changed forever." Meadow Pollack's mother, Shara Kaplan, told the jurors to articulate how her daughter's death affected her. She would have to rip out her heart and show them it's been shattered in a million pieces. She said, "Meadow's death has destroyed my life and my capability of ever living a productive existence." Kelly Petty, mother of victim Elena Petty, described the late 14-year-old as a very loving person. She said in her statement, she loved her friends, she loved her family, and most importantly, she loved God. I am heartbroken that I won't be able to watch her become the amazing young woman she was turning into. But while most people spoke about how dearly they missed their kids, Alyssa's mother had a special message for Nicholas Cruz.
May your life be horrific, painful, and show no mercy. To my daughter Alyssa, know that your light will always shine, and I will continue to be your voice. I will continue to fight for change, and I will work the rest of my life honoring you with my work at our nonprofit organization, Make Our Schools Safe.
Officially, Nicholas was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole after pleading guilty to 17 counts of first-degree murder and 17 counts of attempted murder. TJ Lane.
I hate you for the pain you have caused, Nick. You chased him down the hall and fired the last bullet that paralyzed him. Why? Why did you do it? Why? Nick is a very kind and loving. Why would you want to hurt him?
On the morning of February 27, 2012, TJ Lane opened fire inside the cafeteria at Chardon High School, killing 3 students and wounding 3 others, while wearing a sweatshirt emblazoned with the word killer. According to words on the street, his goal was to kill someone he believed was a romantic rival. but he ended up killing 3 students and wounding others. While it was suspected that TJ Lane was aiming for a romantic rival, a commonly held belief to this day, he never made his motive clear in court. However, as monstrous as his actions were, the students who went to school with him described him as reserved and quiet, although he had a tumultuous family life. Throughout his time in the school, he didn't discuss details about his life with anyone, nor did he have many friends, and he didn't belong to any clubs or cliques. However, despite his surface kindness, TJ Lane was deemed a reluctant learner, leading to his transfer to the Lake Academy Alternative School in the neighboring town of Willoughby, Ohio, at the end of his first year. No one knew about his troubles or his plans to carry out the shooting. Nothing gave him away except a disturbing piece of writing he published on Facebook 2 months before the shooting. It reads, "I am death, and you have always been the sod. Now, feel death, not just mocking you, not just stalking you, but inside of you. Wriggle and writhe, feel smaller beneath my might. Seizure in the pestilence that is my scythe. Die, all of you." On the day of the horrific incident, TJ ultimately shot 5 male students and 1 female student before running out of the cafeteria, only to be tackled by a teacher named Joseph Rizzi and a coach named Frank Hall. But by the time his rampage was over, the deed was already done. As expected, no time was wasted in TJ's trial. He was quickly tried and convicted of the crime, but his behavior in the courtroom to the victim's family is not what you would have expected. But before then, the victims read their impact statement while TJ was seated facing them with a devilish smile on his face. Starting with Dina Parmertor, whose son Danny was killed, she called TJ Lane pathetic and a monster. She said, "I hope you have a cold, rough, unkind, harsh prison life with monsters like yourself. I want you to endure years and years of pain and abuse, which in my opinion is not harsh enough." Also in the courtroom was Nick Walczak, who was injured in the shooting and now uses a wheelchair. His mother, Holly, asked the judge not to offer TJ Lane the possibility of parole, as she said, "Judge Furry, please don't ever let him on the streets. He is dangerous and has caused way too much pain." Crystal King, Russell King's sister, also gave her statement saying,
"No one should be able to take the lives of 3 young men who are doing what they were supposed to and get a second chance."
TJ Lane was not one bit moved by all of these statements. Instead, he disrespected his victims' families more. Again, at his sentencing hearing, TJ wore a white shirt with the word "killer" scrawled across it. He addressed the victims with profane imagery and even stuck up his middle finger while saying, "This hand that pulled the trigger that killed your sons now masturbates to the memory. Fuck all of you." Nevertheless, he was given 3 life sentences, 1 for each student whom he murdered. Now, it's time for today's subscriber pick. Feast your eyes on this picture, showcasing a side-by-side comparison of what happens before and after a school shooter was attacked by parents in the courtroom. In the first, the amused teenage shooter could be seen smiling at the victim's family, taunting them and adding insult to their injuries. The parents, provoked by the lack of guilt and remorse, broke the court's decorum by launching a brutal assault on the convict, leaving him with heavy bruises, a black eye, and a bloodied face as seen in the second frame. As we explore the stories of 5 school shooters attacked in the courtroom, this particular incident stands as a reminder of the emotional nature of trials involving children. Their families, overcome by grief and anger, sometimes react in the most unexpected ways, leaving the whole courtroom stunned. But are their actions justified, or do they also deserve to be charged for assault? Share your thoughts with us in the comments down below. Gabe Parker. In January 2018, at exactly 7:57 a.m., as students were gathering in the Commons prior to the start of classes, then 15-year-old student Gabriel Ross Parker opened fire with a Ruger handgun, murdering 2 other 15-year-olds at the scene and injuring 21 others. Before Parker would commit this crime, he reportedly went to the school's band room to check with his friends to make sure they were not in the area before returning to the Commons area and beginning his attack. Witnesses stated that his eyes were lifeless and that he said nothing while he fired at students. After the shooting, Parker discarded the weapon and called his mother to tell her that a shooting had occurred in his school, unknown to his mother that his son was the shooter. He then ran to the weight room and hid with other students. Unaware he was the shooter, other students asked him to join them in hiding. But one of those students hiding in the location recognized Parker as the shooter and alerted a teacher in the room about his identity. Immediately, the teacher called the cops, and Parker was arrested by the Marshall County Sheriff at 8:06 a.m. After Parker was arrested, the revelation that he was the shooter caused his mother to be physically ill. But her pains cannot be compared to the pains of those who lost their children as they poured out their emotions unfiltered in the courtroom. Brian Cope, Preston's parents, said, Preston was the best big brother to his little brother, Maddox. Maddox was his shadow. They did everything together. To Maddox, Preston was a hero and a best friend. He looked up to him for everything and for guidance. They loved each other only the way brothers can. They were a team. Now Maddox must go on living life alone without his big brother. Moments later, it was Secret and Jason Holt's turn. They took the court back to the morning of January 23, 2018. On that horrific day that shots were fired, Bailey ran about 15 to 20 feet to get away from this monster. The death certificate said she was shot multiple times in the torso. Can you imagine reading a death certificate on your own child? Before the end of the statement, she also mentioned how loving their daughter is and how much taking her away from them meant.
She was the most precious, beautiful, and selfless soul on this earth, and you took her from us.
But while Parker's mother felt ill after her son was arrested, the next school shooter took his parents to jail with him. Ethan Robert Crumbley. On November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley was seen entering a bathroom and exiting it about a minute later, holding a semi-automatic handgun. Immediately afterward, he started firing in the hallway as hundreds of students passed through, transitioning from one class to another. When the students began fleeing, he methodically and deliberately walked down the hallway and shot into classrooms and at anyone who was unable to escape until he moved on toward another classroom. According to students, a voice over the intercom alerted them to an active shooter, and their teachers started locking and barricading doors and covering windows, convincing them it was not a drill. Other students recounted hearing loud, banging sounds before they realized the noises were gunshots and quickly locked the doors of their classrooms. Terror and fear filled the atmosphere as no one could determine their fate. As the chaos was going on, police received so many calls which took them to the school, and within 3 minutes of arrival, they arrested Ethan unharmed. At the end of his rampage, 3 students, Madison Baldwin, Tate Meyer, and Hannah St. Juliana, were killed at the scene, and 8 other people, including a teacher, were injured. After investigation, his parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, were also arrested and sentenced to 10 to 15 years in a Michigan prison. Both were convicted at separate trials for their apparent neglect to get their son mental health help or stop him from having access to a gun. However, during Ethan's parents' hearing, families of victims gave their victim impact statements at the stand, saying these parents who gave their son a gun and ignored warning signs he needed help are just as guilty as the shooter. Nicole Beausoleil, Madison's mom, said to them, "You created all this. You created your son's life, which then allowed this to be his path, which should be yours as well. You don't get to look away. You don't get to cry. I didn't get that choice. You failed as parents. The punishment you face will never be enough." Justin's mom also said to them, "This tragedy was completely preventable. If only that had done something, Your Honor, anything to shift the course of events on November 30th. Then our angels would be here today." And finally, Hannah's sister said, "I believe your actions cannot even be confined into the word failure. Your mistakes created our everlasting nightmare." While those words were for Ethan's parents, he had his share at his hearing as well.
"That life will cease to exist to me, and just like trash, it will be forgotten.
This is very hard and continues to feel impossible with the consequences of his actions by being incarcerated for the rest of his life."
And that life sentence was exactly what he got. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.